Whew, well, summer is back, and severe weather is also back as well. The time is 4:24 p.m., and it is June 15th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. Hopefully, everybody is having a great summer so far. Hopefully, everyone is enjoying their time off if they're in school, or they are just enjoying the summer season in general. With that summer season, we are seeing an uptick in severe weather for the month of June. It actually started yesterday and is going to continue throughout this week. And we'll likely see that potential make its way into Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, pretty much on Wednesday afternoon, with a shift to northwesterly flow following this system that makes its way through on Wednesday, which could bring us the potential for more mesocyclonic systems and those types of derecho setups, which again are possible and more typical during the summer season. Let's start with today's setup. This is again probably likely to unfold anytime now across portions of the rocky regions, the high plains, and portions of the plains regions, extending all the way down to portions of Texas, with that focus being across Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, that region kind of centered for severe weather there. That's starting today. Tomorrow, we get that threat into portions of Nebraska and Minnesota. You can see Minnesota as actually more of an enhanced tornado threat attached to a low pressure system. Tuesday, it kind of shifts further south. But then Wednesday is kind of that day we are starting to focus it for our region. You can see there's a 15% risk area for portions of Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Northwest Ohio. Those places are likely to see the potential for some severe weather. All severe hazards, I would say, are on the table with this setup. And again, we'll kind of take a look at the variables that are coming into play with that. But 15% comparable to a slight risk again. Lots is likely to change up to the day that we actually see this event unfold, which is Wednesday afternoon. But I want to take a look at the present models to get you guys an idea of what could unfold and what we're watching in terms of this setup, which again, we're watching trends right now. We're not really paying attention to exact locations and overall threats. So that's really what we are watching with this setup. So let's dive right in. First of all, we're going to take a look at the CSU MLP, which again gives us an idea of some things based on the model outputs, and it gives us an overall risk area based on those themselves, and it actually puts a red region similar to the SPC forecast for Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. You can see that based on this outlook here. The Euro model, okay, let's take a look at some of the models now at this time. We're probably going to briefly touch on most of these. And again, chasing for me this week, not really on the table. Again, as many of you know, June is my camp season, so I'm not really active with storm chasing. Again, I'll probably stream if storms come into my area, but other than that, I can't really chase until July, which again, unfortunate, but I've got other things going on. So let's take a look at the overall pattern for these setups. And again, what we're looking at is the upper levels with how the winds are going to kind of work associated with this setup that we have on Wednesday. And you can see what happens Wednesday morning is you have a little bit of enhanced upper level winds making their way into portions of the Great Lakes region that is likely to fuel the severe weather setup across Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio, that enhanced upper level winds. And as that makes its way through it'll enhance not only the upper level winds, but may also enhance that low level jet and give us some enhanced spin in the atmosphere capable of producing tornadoes. So again, I would say that's very much on the table with this setup as well. And that system is likely to make its way through Wednesday afternoon. And if you get a sounding ahead of when the storms are actually going to make their way through, you can see that you get a TOR sounding. You can see that curvature in your hodograph right there. You can see in the SKU-T chart your LCLs, again, are a little bit elevated based on what is being shown here, but as these storms approach, I'm guessing the LCLs will go a little bit lower. Your storm relativity is going to start to increase. Cape values around 2,000, a steep lapse rate at the ground level up to the 3rd kilometer, with a little bit of 3 Cape there present as well based on the Euro. And again, the Euro does tend to match up a little bit with the NAM. Again, the NAM likes to go big time craziness, as the NAM usually does, but the Euro's kind of following along with the NAM at this time at a little bit of a weaker stage. So again, it's something to take note of, that the Euro is a pretty good model. It tends to not like to overdo things with regards to severe weather patterns. So we're making a note of it. And again, likely to change with the upcoming model runs later on as well. But the Euro's showing that upper level enhancement. And then behind that, what you can see is a northwesterly flow enhancement aloft as well. And with that northwesterly flow, if we can get a system to initialize storms across this region, that northwesterly flow will probably allow these storms to cluster up from an MCS that would have some strong surface level winds as it progresses through, which would lead to some strong straight line winds if a storm was to initialize within this environment. So we're monitoring several variables with this, and again, this heat ridge is going to be kind of something that contributes to that as well. We're watching a kind of a dome of warm air that's going to surge over the southern continent of the United States, and then that's why we see that pattern for if we have warm, moist air from the south, and then cool, dry air associated with the northwesterly flow making its way through. That interaction could trigger a few thunderstorms that could be strong to severe. And that's something to watch out for pretty much during the summer season. And again, it seems to also show itself during late June as well. So let's take a look at what the Euro's currently portraying this as. As you progress it forward, what you see is, again, Tuesday into Wednesday, you got storms initializing across portions of Nebraska, Kansas, maybe even portions of Illinois, those regions. Again, something that the SPC is also mentioning in their forecast as well. On Wednesday, you get that progression into portions of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And you can see these cells that are starting to form associated with low pressure system. Now, if you get a sounding in portions of central Indiana, you can see that TOR sounding. Again, your SRH isn't very high based on what is being shown here, but your instability values are at 3,000. You've got a moderate directional and speed shear. You got strong shear aloft in the upper levels. So again, that's something that is expected, or is what it was shown on the prior maps. You got your steepening lapse rate. So again, potential for severe weather does definitely exist with this. You can see a nice development of storms right across portions of western Michigan at around 5 p.m. on Wednesday, with and more enhanced severe weather setup as we get into the afternoon hours. Storm relativistic values are definitely within the threshold for tornadoes. Strong directional and speed shear being shown on the Euro models. Cape values around 2,300, with surface level Cape values at the 3 Cape is around 82. Steep lapse rates, really all ingredients kind of showing in place for a severe weather event capable of producing all severe hazards based on what I perceive on this forecast sounding, and it'll make its way across portions of southern Michigan based on the Euro. So again, seeing how this is looking on the weather model here, my concern for southwest Michigan is a little bit more elevated, more than other places being shown here. But again, you could see supercell structures also potentially developing across portions of Indiana and Illinois as well. But closer to that low pressure system would be my greater concern for tornadoes, especially if the environment being shown by the Euro model is accurate. So let's take a look at some of the things that are being shown here. Again, your dews are going to be very moist. You have dew points in the 70s. Good moisture with this potential setup, which will also trigger some decent heat ahead of these storms with heat index values close to 90 degrees across portions of southern Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And the big question is, how far will those dews shift north? How far will that warm front lift? And if that does take place, that's what we could see across portions of southern Michigan, that severe weather threat. And then your lightning flash density, going to be a lot of lightning with these storms as they make their way through as well. Here's your severe weather dynamics being shown here with the most unstable Cape values. Your Cape values, again, stronger across portions of Indiana, Illinois. But again, your enhanced shear is going to be closer to that low pressure system, which is something that we'll be watching out for in this case. So that's what's being shown on the latest models. So again, we're watching for a setup for severe weather, including tornadoes and damaging winds and large hail across portions of southwest Michigan. NAM, again, likes to be a very beefy setup, and it follows the Euro just a little bit. But as you know, per the NAM likes to show the worst case scenario, so take this model with a grain of salt. Let's just say that. Progressing forward as we get into Wednesday, you can see even Tuesday evening showing the potential for a band of some storms developing across portions of southern Michigan. Again, the potential with severe weather for these is not too high, but could be some thunderstorms Tuesday evening based on what is being shown there. But then Wednesday is that concerning afternoon for severe weather. You get a sounding across portions of maybe Ionia County. PDS TOR, again, pretty much everything you would need for a severe weather setup being depicted by the NAM, which is typical this far out. I would expect it to decrease itself a little bit, but that hodograph is very good. You have a low cloud base, very strong directional and speed shear present, strong SRH of 350 in the first kilometer, which is capable of strong tornadoes. Again, but this is the model that likes to overdo things, so take it with a grain of salt as it goes through. But this is the farthest out model run as well. So again, likes to do that. Well, I would probably expect a downtrend with this model later on. And then there's the GFS also that shows the Wednesday potential as well. And what it is showing is a more southern mode of storms across portions of Indiana. Will that verify? Soon to tell, but it still also shows that potential for severe weather, including tornadoes with it. So again, every model is really showing severe weather across somewhere in this region on Wednesday. The question is where, how intense, and timing. Pretty much all of those things are still on the table with this. And again, as we get through Wednesday, we will also see the resurgence of warm, humid air. And look at the CAPE values across portions of Minnesota and the Dakotas Friday night to Saturday. You see decent, very high CAPE present across those regions. Again, connected to that northwesterly flow, it would be no surprise to me to see severe weather out there with a potential for some damaging winds and a derecho possible, even as we get into Saturday and Sunday. I mean, Saturday we also have CAPE values across portions of the Great Lakes region. Get a sounding across Michigan Friday into Saturday, showing that severe potential. Again, getting into a pattern like we'll see going into next week. There is, again, it's hard to really say what could take place. So I wouldn't be surprised to see severe weather potential for that time frame as we get into next week with derecho potential as well. But there's still a lot to be played out with that, and models do not do a good job of this. All I can say is that as we get into the Monday time frame, you got that northwesterly flow that's going to make its way behind the system that we see on Thursday or on Wednesday, and that will contribute to a pattern for severe weather. So lots of questions there. I'm not really going to get into too much detail with that right now. So just make sure to subscribe and stay updated. I'll try to keep you guys updated. Again, I'm going to be doing camp, which takes my time up quite a bit during this time period. So just be aware of that severe weather threat for Wednesday. I'm going to try to roll out a Samaritan's Purse video for the St. Louis trip we did a couple weeks ago. Getting kind of difficult with this time of the season. But that's my latest update for you all. Make sure to stay updated with Michigan Storm Chasers. They'll be active and involved with this as well. Thanks for watching all, and I will see you all later.